We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
Aye, aye, Admiral Butthead.
So don't mess with me.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
I pray for the president all the time.
Ugh, back to the lock with you, Nessie.
I've now been in 57 states.
He's what we designate as the Cromie-Moronic type.
We didn't crawl out from under no rocks. We didn't have no tails. We didn't come from monkeys, you atheistic pinko meathead.
Donald Trump no longer has the capacity to break my heart.
I'm not pissed. You've seen me pissed. This is way, way beyond pissed.
Now it's a party!
Don't try to be funny, will you, meathead?
Brother, can you hear me? I think something's wrong with my sound. Oh, I know what the problem is, because I'm a bit of a dodo sometimes. There we go. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff playing in the background. There we go. That's off. How you doing, brother? Can you hear me? How come I can't hear you, John? John, can you hear me? This is what happens, folks, when we start late and we got stuff. I can't hear you, brother. Your volume, is your microphone plugged in? Your mic is not muted on this end. There's something wrong with your microphone, I think. Do you have your headphones in?
How about now? Can you hear now?
There you go. There he is, folks. Yes, John is there. All right, brother. And now I can hear you.
Namaste.
Can you hear me
before? Yes, I can.
I didn't hear a word you said. Not at all.
Well, I did the entire show while you weren't there.
Okay. Good night, everybody. We have a startling lineup for everybody tonight.
But wait a minute, James.
Yeah, brother.
Look what I got.
What's that? Are you wearing a Hawaiian shirt?
Yes, I am.
Time I was like, don't wear a Hawaiian shirt because it makes him feel bad. And we were going to be talking about the Compassionate Death to America party, and I thought I should at least be more compassionate since we were going to talk about the Death to America party. Yeah, I know. Look, he's even showing the muscles.
Magnum PI, baby. When am I going to get my T-shirt?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because our store is up and running. We don't have a promo for it yet. That will be coming up tomorrow, and it'll be at next week's show. But right now, you can get 15% off for the limited time. You can get 15% off any of our. We have 3 classes of clothing. We have one that says "This is my 6-pack," which of course I don't have the pictures ready, so I apologize. And it's quite a startling one. Then we have one Ballistic Patriot, which is our flagship one. I should have mentioned that first. And then, of course, the third one is Defund the Democrats. So these are our trademark stuff. So please reach out, grab.
Where's my Magnum PI shirt, Ballistic Patriot?
I am not. I still am having sourcing issues with that. Issues.
So shout out to my dear fellow Patriot sister Patriot who gave me the Magnum PI shirt because I'm still waiting for my shipment from you with the cowbell. You have yours. Where's mine? But thank you.
Especially being made.
Okay, I'll be especially being made. So I'll get Magnum PI shirt, Ballistic Patriot, right? That's what we're going for, right?
Yes, the problem is I was sourcing some of the shirts, and they start like some of them start $50 for just a shirt and some type of packaging, for it. It's quite expensive, and it's definitely a upper tier, and we just haven't gotten it yet, brother. We just haven't gotten to it yet. So.
All right, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. So the show tonight we have. Well, brother, we're starting off with. We're going to start off with an update. We got a couple of updates where we're going to be talking about that. We have a deep dive into the Death to America party. We should call it a cult. Maybe we should call it a cult, not a party.
I'm glad they have a new name.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've discovered it, and we also then we're going to be talking about some information about Uncle Tom Part 2, and then diving into slavery Part 2. Then we're going to talk about Stargirl, and that'll be our show. That'll be our show. It's pretty good show tonight. I think we have a lot of good quality things lined up for us. I keep on experimenting with the way we're going to do this. But by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you can, like, share, spread the message. We got to get this message out to as many people as possible, because the only way we're going to be able to help President Trump get elected, and the only way we're going to be able to help getting America back on track is to, in fact, fight back. And the best way to fight that is to spread information, get the information out there, get more voices talking in favor of our way of the conservative, the point of view that we have, the America First agenda. The more we do that, ladies and gentlemen, the more you're going to see an opportunity for America to turn around. Because right now we're facing some major struggles ahead of us with all this nonsense with the cancel culture, and we'll get more into that later. But ladies and gentlemen, please do me a favor. Right now, I'm actually sharing it as I'm talking to you. I want you to please do me a favor. Get the message out. Tell your friends. Share this. Tuesday I do a show. We're going to do more on Stargirl and a couple other things. But I'm hoping that you will be able to.
What's your Tuesday show? Is that your pizza show?
No, Tuesday is the High Speed Politics show, John. I have a full opening. I have it all set up. We have a great talk about politics, more of the same that you see here, but it's also like a shorter version. It's just me, so it's not. It doesn't have my brother's.
Wit.
That's
Good
what
looks.
you could call it. Yeah,
good looks.
Yeah. His
Good
doesn't
looks.
have his wine shirt. You got
Good
my
looks.
wine shirt. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of good things. Definitely come out and check it out. It's on Tuesdays. It's at 7:30 at night. And so please make sure that you are with us. And that is all I'm going to put up for now. You're going to have to, the rest of you are going to have to help out. Okay, brother. So let's dive into the DNC. I'm going to put up on the screen one of the
we just got finished with the DNC convention this week.
Yeah.
We watched it, so you didn't have to watch it. Well, we watched parts of it because it was just so much of it was unwatchable, unbelievable.
Right. So,
but there were some highlights, and this is definitely one of the highlights.
So what you have here is you have the Mermaid King Queen. I mean, probably a lot of people have seen it off of Tucker, but they want the King Queen is a non-binary, and I hope I have it queued up to the right spot, where we have the Mermaid King Queen talking about this idea of what Biden and Harris have to do in order to make things happen within the Democratic Party. So here, let me try and get this.
So this happened during the day.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
This happened during the day. I'll just fill while you push the buttons. This happened during the day, whereas at night they saw the fake face of the Democratic Party. This is the real face of the Democratic Party. This is where they're really headed.
Right. And so what we have here is there we go. That should do it.
Would address. If you could talk right now with Vice President Biden and Senator Harris, what would you ask of them to best support trans and non-binary youth of color?
I think it's a lot.
Would you like to take that
no
first?
one wants to answer this question.
Linda, do you want to go first?
I think it's funny. I just think it's funny. Neither one of them wants to answer the question. But
so
then,
I would, if I could talk to
the Mermaid
VP
Queen
Biden and
does.
Senator Harris right now, I would tell them to open their purse, to open the DNC's purse, and to give hard cash money or Cash App, Venmo, whatever, Black, trans, non-binary youth right now, because we cannot vote if we're struggling to survive. We cannot focus on any of these issues if we're struggling to feed ourselves, if we're struggling to house ourselves, if we're trying to figure out how we're going to live the next day, if there's going to be breath in our lungs the next day. Open your purse, because I'm tired of seeing people like trans, non-binary youth having to use GoFundMes and Cash Apps and Venmos to sustain themselves. That is freaking ridiculous. And so they need to open up the purse, open up your bag, and give money where money is much needed, because we can't do shit if we can't live.
So I think that's you notice that they're like demanding money in order to get their vote. But I think also, if you notice, John, at the top left-hand corner of that screen, right here, where it's got the D2 and then there's a circle. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that on your screen?
Yes, I can.
And so it's a D with a pentagram star in it, or just a star in it. Then there's 2, and then there's a 0 with America in it. So I can't take credit for this. I saw this on Facebook, but I can't give credit because I don't remember who it was. But it means Death to America. Look at it. It says D to America. Now, very popular movie, Death Day. This is one of the ways that they do it. They discusses they have the D and then they use the numbers, and this is a very modern way of sending signals. And so, we've been searching for a name for the Democrats, because they're really the party. The Democratic name is the party, of course, of right. Slavery.
If we're going to enter in and play the cancel culture game, which we should,
right.
which President Trump was right to do
right.
this week with a Goodyear tire kerfuffle, then we've demanded. Ballistic Patriots demanded that the last surviving slave institution, the oldest slave institution left in America, right. the longest run slave institution left in America, the Democrat Party, who literally fought a war to keep slaves, should be canceled. And so they were looking for a new name. I think that's the appropriate name. I think it says it all for
I think
them.
They've given
that's
us
to
the
America
name,
Party. That's
they've
right.
Given us the name.
They're just doing it subliminally.
Yeah. So I think this is key, and I think it's also important for us to note that we didn't come up with this; they did. This is all from them. So they've identified it. It's self-identification, which I guess is important in the Democratic Party.
I do want to point out. Now, I don't want to be cruel. I don't want us to seem that we're cruel to these people, obviously with problems. It's sad that they have, certain problems. But putting on my Jordan Peterson hat, these are people with complete potential at 18. So the real simple solution to their problem is this: get a job, go help people, get a job and make something of your life. It does them no favor that at this age of the young part of their lives, where they have their whole life ahead of them, that somebody doesn't tell them, hey, go support yourself, go get a job, get a J-O, or as somebody once famously said, that 3-letter word, J-O-B-S, the 3-letter word. If they could just, their leader said that's the way he spells, so they should listen to their leader and go look for that 3-letter word, J-O-B-S.
Not to go down into the next segment or to one of the future segments, but one of the characters I was watching, his name is Eric D. July. He's a young ripper. He's a YouTube guy, and he points out that the way to end the pandemic is very simple. You just stop giving these unemployment checks out to people, and you start making them people go out and get their jobs again. That's what his plan is. He says that'll stop this lockdown right away, because people will have no choice but to go out and make their way to work. So that's the easiest, simplest way: get a job, get back to work. So one of the other things that we discussed, brother, was the that we saw from the DNC was a woman who claimed to be all upset that she was oppressed, and she was talking to the people. She was talking to the people from her multi-million-dollar home on Martha's Vineyard. But I think it's also important to recognize this isn't the video of her speaking.
Will that be on the Tuesday show?
This will be no. This is the reason why I'm playing this is because during all the commentary that I've heard, everything that's been said about Michelle Obama is that she doesn't like to participate in politics, that she is above politics, that she doesn't want to be a part of that kind of thing. Well, brother, I have to tell you, this is 2008 that you're seeing on the screen. She's going to speak at the convention. Yes, I know her husband is going to be nominated. She spoke at the 2012, she spoke at the 2016, and she's spoken at 2020. And she's had multiple speaking events that always involve some kind of politics. And so when the left tells us the lie that she doesn't want to be involved in politics, I think we need to push back. Here she is in 2008, and yes, I've muted her because we don't need to hear what she has to say. It's because it's 12 years ago, first off, but it's just an example of the hypocrisy, the I don't even know what you would call it. It's just garbage coming from the left where they lie to us. It's just a straight up lie where they lie to us about her being not wanting to be in politics, yet she takes a chance at the screen every chance she can. She gets on that camera as much as she possibly can. And as for someone who's so camera shy, doesn't want to be involved in politics, there's an awful lot out there with her in it. And so I call a lie to what they're saying. I think it's important also, most people saw it already. The oppressed woman from Martha's Vineyard who lives in a $13 million home, who was speaking to us about how she's been oppressed. She's doing pretty well. Lecturing us as if we're all some dumb idiots.
We're racist. We're the racist for not honoring her enough. I don't know what more she could get.
Well, or her husband too, because remember, she only is happy and only happy with the country when they're honoring her husband, who is, I just want to remind everybody during his term, this is the same guy who used the IRS against his political opponents. He used the intelligence services to investigate the congressmen who were against him in the Iran deal. He used the same group of people to go after news outlets, most notably individual anchors who weren't even critics of him, but investigating him. They also used it to go after our current president, President Trump. So, I mean, this guy, that's not even talking about Fast and Furious, what he did with that. The cages that he came up with and all of a sudden forgot that he did when the left starts going after President Trump for the border
caging
issues.
Children down in the border.
What we see is the left lies and lies and lies. It's gotten to the point where
it's a calculated deception, James. Remember,
but it's
calculated
really
deception.
It's really fitting our point of way we see politicians. The only way you know that their politician is lying is if they're opening their mouth. Now we can extend that to the mainstream media. We know that they're lying when they open their mouth. That's what it's come down to, and that's what this is an example of when they lie about Michelle Obama being somebody who doesn't want to be in politics. Of course she does. She wants to run in 2024 when she knows she has a shot, because she knows she wouldn't have a shot against President Trump because he's not going to take her crap. What she's hoping is that we put somebody up in 2024 who's going to take her crap and virtue
James,
state.
We have not heard the last of the Obamas, but I think they have a bigger way to do it than that. But did you get my request about the calculated deception of the Biden campaign?
That was the House. I had it. I don't know what happened to it. Right? Oh no, I was getting it. The
whole campaign is based on this lie. So allegedly, the story goes in Biden's acceptance speech for the Democratic national for president. He at the convention, he said the reason why he decided to run for president was because of what happened at Charlottesville, where, if you remember back, the monument in the monument. There was a monument controversy where they were fighting over just pulling down the monuments way back then, and President President Trump said there were good people on both sides of the issue, meaning the monument, and he clarified it by specifically saying the monument, but then specifically said, but he wasn't talking about the white nationalists and the Nazis. And then, though the left has run with this lie, Biden has run with this lie for the last 4 years, that he was saying that the good people, that the Nazis and the white nationalists, white supremacists, were the good people. That's a complete lie. So the foundation of his campaign this year for president is an out and out lie that he knows he can get away with because the press will never call him on it. Now there are of course some members of the press, Tapper and Mike Smirkanov, who originally said that yes, this he did say this, have come out and said, oh, when we look at the full tape, he clearly says except for white nationalists and Nazis, good people on both sides of the issues, except for white people and nationalists. So they are at least true for that moment. But again, we'll see in debates whether this comes up or not, whether anybody over the next 80 some days asks him this simple question: you keep saying this lie about President Trump and Charlottesville. When are you going to retract it? Because the tape can't be more clear. Now, do you have the tape?
No, I don't. I'm trying to get it right now. Keep talking.
Well, you only have a little while to show. I think the point's been made. Oh, well. Well, you have other updates. You want to go into our other updates? There's the Atilis gym update, and there's the but the point being this, the whole idea is that the Biden campaign is he's a compassionate guy, and Trump's mean because he fights back. But and listen, he's just a counterpuncher. He's just a counterpuncher. He doesn't deliberately go after these people. These people deliberately go after him, and he counterpunches. But the theme of the Biden campaign is going to be that Trump, orange man bad. He's got no compassion, where I have so much compassion. Yet he sells this on the complete lie that Donald Trump in the Charlottesville incident, this complete claim, lying, slanderous, blood libel claim that Trump said something he did not say. He said specifically, except for the white nationals and the Nazis, they should be condemned. That's what he said. And if we had the tape, we could roll that right now.
We could, but I have to tell you, one of the reasons why we don't is because it's very hard to find. Just as I'm going to put
I believe it. The censorship of the big tech, the corporations. Another thing that came out in the DNC is two very important things. Number one, if my observations is this: number one, the big corporations are now not on the Republican side. So we've never been. It's not even fair to call us conservative because we are pro-union and we are we're pro. We're pro trust busting. We're pro trust busting up these big corporation, these gigantic corporations that have monopolies and stuff. So it's two things that did come out is the money. These big corporations are now solely behind the Democratic Party. Trump has taken over his party. You could argue that the Bernie wing of the party tried to take over that party, and that they were a little bit against the big corporations. But now with Black Lives Matters and the sellout, the complete sellout of Adolfo Cortez, and them, that they are squarely taken over. The Democratic Party is now the corporation, the party of the big corporation. Number one. Number two, and it's a funny thing, the good old, all the good old idiot neocons. By this, we're talking during the previous iterations of the beginning of the century. There's this faction of the neocons. The neocons were these chicken hawks, like good old Chicken Wing. Creator of Bill Kristol, the creator of the Weekly Standard, the now hopefully, thankfully defunct Weekly Standard. These are the creeps who lied to get us in every war over the Bush, from Bush 1 on forward. So what they were was when at Harvard and Yale and all these elite institutions, when the cool kids were being communists, they were at the children's table. They're still commies. They're still idiots. They're still more. The way the left hates the average American citizen and are against us, they are too. They just want to kill us by sending us off to war. And so these these chicken hawks, the so-called neocons, are totally against Trump because he's the first president in 40 years not to get us into a shooting war, and says things like, well, why can't we negotiate? Why can't we talk to little Il Kim and the other dictators? I'm not saying I'm going to say it's okay what they do, and he's a tough negotiator. He's not caved. He's not giving them all the money like the Clintons and the or $100 billion like that knucklehead, the dumbest president we ever had, Obama, to the Iranians. He's not doing any of that. So how dare they say anything that's bad for him to talk to these people or to use force? But so the neocons, with Kasich and Crystal speaking at the convention, they are also now squarely out of the Republican Party and into the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party is now the party of big corporations and the neocons, and the Republican Party is now the party of the working guy and the sergeant soldiers who are going to be sent, and kids that are going to be sent to their little wars, and they're going to have their jobs stolen from them and shipped over to China by the creep monopoly corporations. So it'll very instructive in a lot of ways this week, and we're going to see what Trump does to continue to make the Republican Party, which is what it was once more, the party of the people. We the people. Power to the people. When we say to our African American friends that are from Africa, welcome as immigrants. We say to our domestic fellow Americans that happen to be black, welcome back. Come back to the party, not Brexit, not leave the party. Come back, welcome back, because we are the party of the people. And good. It was with taking good old Crystal and Kasich and the other idiots who lied us into war after war. Over the last 20 years to the Democratic Party. Good luck with that. Good luck with it. Better your problem than ours. And so you want to move on to our other updates, brother?
Yes, we can go. We do have. We didn't do the updates on Atilis Gym.
Oh yeah, you gotta do that.
Atilis Gym has turned itself into a rally point for the Rick Maida campaign. Rick is running for Senate in New Jersey. He's the Republican candidate for Senate in New Jersey against Spartacus. And then we have Lakeside Tavern, Lakeside Diner has been having indoor meals. The owner of that is supposed to be arrested tomorrow morning. And so I think that's something we should be aware of, that this is the tyranny of Governor Murphy. And then we see the narcissistic behavior of this man, who, when it comes to the Atilis Gym, he can't even send his people down there to find out what they're doing to have over 15,000 visits and not one person to get sick from it. This is an amazing triumph for Atilis Gym, to have accomplished this. And this guy, instead of saying, oh, maybe this is a model for us to be able to open up gyms and thus make people healthier so that their immune systems can better survive against, if they do by chance get this COVID virus. If they, instead of doing that, this narcissist governor that we have is just going to arrest people, lock them up, fine them. They're up to over $10,000 in fines. I think it's actually $15,000.
I thought it was $150,000. It was $150,000.
Yeah, $15,000. I think it's an enormous amount of money that these guys are being fined because they're standing up to the governor. And the guy in Lakeside is getting arrested. This is when we have to draw a line in the sand and say, this is not what the Constitution was put there for. The Constitution was not put there for so a governor could violate it. He doesn't have that authority. He's just not that important to the system. He should no longer be. But he has, and this is a point we make in Take Back the Star campaign book, John, is that the courts are no longer systems that's supposed to arbitrate. They're no longer arbitrating equally. They're now arbitrating towards and leaning towards.
They're not the umpire, I mean.
Yeah, they're not the umpire. They're leaning towards helping out the central government. They're leaning towards being partisan towards the central government.
They're the part of it.
They're part of it because they're part of the system now. So we can't trust the courts to be independent arbitrators of this anymore because they're failing in their job. Because if they had been following it, they wouldn't be sitting there saying there's a reason to violate the Constitution. There is no reason to violate. Because if you can violate the Constitution for this, then you can have any type of reign of terror created by whatever governor wants to say there's an emergency. He can just declare it.
It's judicial nullification of the Constitution and your rights.
Yeah, and it's unacceptable. So, having said that, that's the update. Let's move on.
You said the 9th district too. You guys.
Well, we're going to talk about the congressional candidates and when we look at the different aspects from Uncle Tom. Remember last week we spent a lot of time talking about Uncle Tom, which is the movie done by Larry Elder, talking about the plight of the black conservative in America, and how they are the political prisoner of the left, because the left attacks him, calls him Uncle Tom, calls him sellouts, calls him all kinds of different names that I'm not going to repeat the worst names that they use to attack them. And they do it they do it because they stand up for themselves and they have independent ideas. And it's time for us to start highlighting this, because one of the things that I mentioned to John over this week was, one of the big fighters who just passed away recently in the civil rights movement, one of the big fighters was John Lewis. And the John Lewis of the 60s, the civil rights era, when he was fighting for it, was not the John Lewis of today. Because if you look at the John Lewis back then, he was connected to the people. And it's the point that's made in Uncle Tom. The point is, I think Jesse Lee Peterson said it when he looked at Jesse Jackson, when he looked at others, members of the NAACP, the leadership of the NAACP, and other prominent black leaders. They had full families. In other words, they had a husband and a wife. They had kids who were all going to the best schools, and there was nothing stopping them. There was no oppression on them. So why then were they then selling to all the other black people that they were being oppressed? And he realized at that moment, that was his come to Jesus moment, where he realized they're lying to us. They're simply lying to us. And so I would say John Lewis of the civil rights, and compared to today, he's not the same guy. He's part of that same group that Jesse Lee Peterson was talking about, the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons. When they look at that and they say, these guys have it made. These black people have it made. They're not oppressed. Why are they saying that the rest of us are oppressed? And it goes into a lot more. But I wanted to point out there's actually one candidate running in Baltimore right now.
So they're the real Uncle Toms of the Uncle Tom movie.
Right. Well,
understanding it's a pejorative.
Right. Well, and
I was just kind of saying.
So what we have here is we now have. We're going to highlight two congressional candidates, one in Maryland and one in New Jersey, who are fighting the fight and are part of the Republican congressional candidates, and they are being shot down every chance they can. But I have two videos that we're going to try to share right now. The first one's Kim. I can't say her last name, John. Kim Klanick, I think it is. Klanick. She's running in Baltimore, which is John Lewis's territory, and she makes a great solid point, which is why and backs up the point that I mentioned earlier about how John Lewis is not the same John Lewis of the civil rights era. So God rest his soul. God, may he rest in peace. But I want to make clear that what we're fighting today in our country is the John Lewises of today, not the John Lewises of the 60s. Okay.
Do you care about Black lives? The people that run Baltimore don't. I can prove it. Walk with me. They don't want you to see this. I'm Kim Klasick. This is Baltimore, the real Baltimore. This is the reality for Black people every single day. Crumbling infrastructure, abandoned homes, poverty, and crime. Baltimore has been run by the Democrat Party for 53 years. What is the result of their decades of leadership? Baltimore is one of the top 5 most dangerous cities in America. The murder rate in Baltimore is 10 times the U.S. average. The Baltimore poverty rate is over 20%. Homicide, drug, and alcohol deaths are skyrocketing in our city. Do you believe Black Lives Matter? I do. The vast majority of crime in Baltimore is perpetrated against Black people, who make up 60% of the population. So why don't we care about our communities? The Democrat Party have betrayed the Black people of Baltimore. If the politicians walked the streets like I do, they would see exactly how their policies and corruption affects us. But they don't want to see it. They don't want you to see this. Go to any Baltimore neighborhood and ask this question. Do you want to defund the police?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
I had 3 sons killed in Baltimore City. And I think if we defund the police office, it's going to be worse than that. So, no, I'm opposed to that.
What are you going to defund the police for? Why? How do you defend your city, your community? Families are losing people.
It's not just Baltimore. The worst place for a Black person to live in America is a Democrat-controlled city. It's 2020. Name a blue city where Black people's lives have gotten better. Try. I'll wait. Look at this. How are children supposed to live here and play here? Democrats think Black people are stupid. They think they can control us forever, that we won't demand better, and that we'll keep voting for them forever, despite what they've done to our families and our communities. Are they right? I'm Kim Klacik, and I'm running for Congress because I actually care about Black lives. All Black lives matter. Our communities matter. Baltimore matters. And Black people don't have to vote Democrat.
All right, so that's Kim Klacik. She does a great job of highlighting.
That's awesome,
points.
James. Yeah.
I also have another one who's been out there fighting. Another fighter, a Republican, who has been. Let me just get him squared away here. His name is Billy Prempe. He's running in the 9th district now. He's running in New Jersey. He's
it's Patterson. It's the Patterson area.
Part of Patterson, and he's running against a guy, Bill Pascrell Jr. This guy Pascrell has been a sitting congressman for years, and he has done nothing for his people. And as Billy points out, he has no idea where he's coming from. We're gonna, it's a 10-minute video, but we're only gonna play a few minutes of it. I think it's very important. You can see, Billy is a very, first of all, I met Billy. He's a good guy. I don't know who Kim is. I never really met her. I've seen her work. She's great. She's very, very solid. Billy is very much the same way. First of all, he's a big guy. He, carries the room very well, and he's very strong in his political views. He has no problem pointing him out. And the thing that's disgusting about this whole thing is Bill Pascrell, who's supposed to be for the people of his district, is not even willing. He doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to go up against Billy in a debate. Billy has reached out to him, but I'll let Billy speak for himself here.
I'm making this message as a concerned citizen for Mr. Bill Pascrell. I'm not the only person that has this on their mind. There's a lot of people that are thinking the same thing. Where's Bill? We see Bill Pascrell online. We see him talking about his distrust and his dislike for the president. But is that really Bill Pascrell? Or is that someone on his staff that's doing that? Because I haven't seen Bill. Nobody that I know, nobody in my city, nobody in this district has seen Bill. And I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. Is Bill still with us? Politically and physically, is Bill still with us? I don't know where Bill is. A lot of people want to hear us debate. They want to hear my ideas. Most people know my ideas. We don't know what Bill Pascrell's ideas are. What we do know is he doesn't like the president. But Bill, the people want to see your face. I haven't seen him on video. I haven't seen him in person. The last time I even seen anything about Bill Pascrell was when he was marching arm in arm with Black Lives Matter right up Broadway and Patterson, when he told everybody we have to do the social distancing and stay away. But that's okay. You can do big movements, and it's not going to affect you if you're in the middle of a protest. That's okay, right? But that's the last time we saw Bill Pascrell. Bill, the people want to know what's on your mind. I want to know what's on your mind. I'm not too far from your fire department right up the road. I've tried going over there. I've tried going to your offices. People have been calling your office. You've been sending you emails, been trying to reach out to you. What's going on, Bill? You know? And I really hope you're doing okay, Bill. I really hope you're doing okay, because I know not too long ago there was a whole bunch of news about you having a surgery that, according to what the news has said, has went well. And I'm glad that it went well for your heart. I mean, are you in the appropriate position to continue to run? I want to know, because people are starting to think that you no longer care about this district. A lot of people believe that you're in this for the money. They want to know, what legislation have you put in place to help Patterson or help the 9th District in the past 23 years? I haven't seen any legislation. Nobody's seen any legislation. You go to your website and all they see is you co-sponsoring other people's bills. Nobody sees any of the bills that you're trying to put in place for the district. Nobody sees any of the bills you're putting in place for the country as a whole. The most recent thing you did was co-sponsor the George Floyd bill, which is okay, cool, yeah. Ban the lynching, ban the chokeholds. I actually put in place the Jarro bill, a bill that'll help reform our police departments, give them the training that they need necessary, where it's mandatory, that they learn how to deal with firearms proficiency, how to deal with constitutional situations, understand the Constitution on a much better level, how to deal with mental health crises, how to de-escalation tactics. All these things I believe police officers are required to have to learn and deal and actually practice as a police officer. And from a lot of the police officers that I spoke with, a lot of them like the idea. A lot of them believe in the idea. If a police officer does something wrong and they're involved with some kind of misconduct, then they are going to be investigated by the Department of Justice. I want to create a national police force under the Department of Justice that'll go and investigate and look into these police misconduct and police brutality situations so they can prosecute these bad apples. Because a lot of the police officers, they're out here doing the right thing. They're doing their job appropriately, and they want to do what's best for the American people. But it's kind of hard for them to do the right thing when there's bad apples in the police department and they're protected. So I want to give them the opportunity to reach out to the Department of Justice and get rid of these people. Give the people in the community the ability to have some transparency where they can go and get a personal investigation done on their behalf.
So, brother, there's Billy. I mean, I'm going to let him keep going on in our background, but this is a guy who he's an Air Force veteran. He's
how did he fit in an airplane, James?
Say again?
How did he fit in an airplane?
John, there's a lot of other jobs other than being in a cockpit, and there's a lot of other jobs you can do in the Air Force.
He's a big guy. I'm not saying that in a bad way. He's a good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, I know. I get it, but I'm hoping that we can get him to do an interview with us at some point, because I'd love to get him on the show and have him speak more about his ideas, because clearly he can't get a debate with Bill Pascrell Jr. And I think this guy, I'll say it because Billy's too nice of a guy to say it. Bill Pascrell is one of those crony Democrats who just expects to get reelected. He's in a district that's easy for him to get reelected because he's bought and paid for. He's got all the money. He's got all the connections. Is one more seat in the House. It's a sure thing for these commie Democrats, and he is part of the commie party. He would fit very well in it. This guy's background is dirty. He's one of those Democratic machines. I don't think he's ever really held a job in his life, and if he doesn't remember what it was like.
Well, James, back in 2016, and I think we made this point more than once. President Trump asked you, "What do you got to lose to the black community?" And he got higher rates of black people voting for him than all of the Rhino, Paul Ryan, so-called, we have to appeal and be moderate. He got more black people voting for him than all of that, than all the Bushes, both of them put together. And I really think he really broke the wall and really broke the wall and broke through to a degree that you have the rise now of what you call the black conservative, but just normal people that are voting for the Republicans. What do we got to lose? There are cities. I think Patterson's been in charge with Democrats, or Newark, for over 100 years. It's been in charge of by the Democrats. And look what they've done. They've just stolen all the money that was supposed to go to the poor people, and it's not even. They haven't even built the place up. It's gotten worse and worse and worse, generation after generation after generation. They get richer. Kamala Harris has a $5 million house. But good old the rich lady from Martha's Vineyards got a $13 million house over there in Martha's Vineyards. But what about the rest of the people? What about the people on the street? I love Kim's where she's just talking to the regular people on the street. Common sense that they live with every day. That's why what the real genius of Trump is this. You take any American, which is what he is, and you drop him in the middle of the swamp. This is what they're going to do. And this is how they're going to try and kill that person. And it won't be orange man bad, it'll be black man bad or Italian man bad or whatever, because it is literally us versus the swamp. But it's.
Well, I will say this, brother. There's another video that I had that I was gonna do, but found this one, and this is a much more summation of Billy's viewpoint and what he has to say. But in the other video, he went down into Patterson, into the heart of Patterson, and one of the things that background they're allowing the Black Lives Matter Patterson to paint one of the roadways, and so Billy went down there to talk about it, and he was talking to one of the organizers, and he makes the point. He's very clear about it. You support Black Lives Matter, just so you know, it's a multi-billion-dollar organization. 40% of what they spend goes to plane tickets, hotels, and taking care of those people who work for it, not to helping out the community. And that's where the guy from Patterson, Black Lives Matter chapter, said, well, we don't really affiliate ourselves with a bigger group, because what we do, and he goes into this big spiel about how they're more focused on helping the local people out, and that's what they're doing. That's what the local Black Lives Matter is doing. But Billy has no problem confronting. My point is, he has no problem going into this and saying, hey, did you know? And then pointing out the hypocrisy of groups like Black Lives Matter. This is the kind of guy that we want on our tickets. This is the kind of guy who isn't afraid, and this is the same thing that Trump has. He isn't afraid to speak the truth. We've seen too many congressional candidates, too many candidates in general who are weak-kneed. They fold like a cheap umbrella. And, it's not something that's uncommon. It's something that's very common. And the Republicans are afraid to stand up for Republican values, saving the children from abortion, Second Amendment rights, all these ideas, independence and liberty, less government. We have too many Republicans who are hiding in a corner, afraid of defending these ideas. And then this guy comes around. Billy is out and out, outspoken. He has no problem standing up for conservative values. He has no problem saying it straight, and he'll do it every time. This is the kind of guy that we need to support, and we need to stand behind. We need to donate to him so that he can be on some kind of parody with Bill Pascrell Jr. Bill, he's hiding in the basement. They call him Basement Bill because he's hiding in the basement. He's afraid to come out and meet the people. And this guy, Billy's going to do what Kim did, talking, going around, meeting people, shaking hands. And you know what? He's a good guy. So I'm hoping to get him on an interview, brother. So that's up to right now we're at 48 minutes.
So we only have like a couple minutes then, right?
12 minutes, yeah.
All right, so what do you want to do?
Well, we have Stargirl left and we have Slavery Part 2.
All right, so what you want to do?
It's up to you. So your call.
You want to hit with Star? You want to hit with Stargirl? No. All right. I'll hit the. Let me hit the slavery. All right. We'll hit History of Slavery Part 2. Actually, we have to do it like a History of Slavery Part 3, 4. The reason why it's relevant, of course, is because the evil lie of the left and the Democratic Party is that the original sin of America is slavery. Therefore, America must be destroyed. And so now the communists started back in the 1920s. The communists looked at American the hodgepodge nature of American society and said, "Oh, look, here goes a lever. The lever is to drive division between the whites, the blacks, the Italians, the Irish, the Anglo-Saxons, the Spanish, to drive wedges in there, and through that wedge we will exploit and bring down America, much like for Europe it was the class versus class. In America it would be race versus race, and to start the tribalism to destroy America. So the original sin of America, of course, is history. Now it came up in the DNC that a particular rich woman from California and living in a $5 million mansion there claiming to be oppressed, said that she said in her, and I wish you had the quote, you had the video for it. There's no vaccine for racism. All right. Well, all right. Well, there actually is, and so we should do this the true history of slavery. Of course, now when they're using the word slavery, of course, the left is appropriating a white term, cultural appropriation, of course, because slavery is a corruption of Slav. It showed up in the English language around, I guess, 1200s, but was obviously much earlier than that. Referring to the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire's predilection to get a lot of slaves from the Slavic area, like the Polish area, that type of Europe, and turn them into slaves. So that the culture of the people of the Slavs were slaves in the Eastern Roman Empire that then would become slaves. Now, every society known to man has had slaves, except for one. But every society known to man and all the original societies had slaves. The biggest slave markets in the world were in China and in Africa. There's slave trades in deep in China, in India, in obviously the old Roman Empire. The worst slave ever was probably treated in the Roman Empire if you worked in a mercury mine there, because your life expectancy was 7 years and you died horribly from mercury poisoning. So it's in every form. It's been throughout history. It was even up to the 1600s. If you watch Ben-Hur, you'll see the slavery of around the time of Jesus, where they were in the galleries and the slaves were chained to the galleries and they had to row. That went on to the 1600s, the Battle of Lepanto, with Italy. That was still going on. There were estimates that there were 1 to 2 million white Europeans taken by North Africa. Now, the largest slave trade probably was not the Atlantic slave trade, but probably the trans-Sahara slave trade. There's some of the estimates for that are for the Atlantic slave trade from Africa to America, the Americas, were in the millions, up to 4 million. Some of this to 10 million. Some of the estimates for the trans-Sahara, meaning from below the Saharan deserts to the northern end, were of course in the 100 million numbers, and whereas the trans-African the transatlantic African slave trade, had a death rate of 10 to 20%. They had and it was horrible to be chained into the ships and shipped across the ocean. It was even worse, way worse, to be marched north up through the Saharan desert. And those some of those survival rates were 20% would survive because they were being, of course, marched from the deserts. Now, interestingly enough, as another aside, there's a famous saint, the famous saint of Bactea. She's a great Italian saint. She's actually a completely very dark, very black sub-Saharan African a girl who at the age of 7 was stolen by Muslim traders and marched across a big chunk of Africa, wound up into Sudan, was raped, was sold in slavery multiple times, whipped, actually had 100 plus scars that were cut into her body and had the salt pressed into her wounds to make the scarring everlasting into her upper arms, her breast, and her stomach. And she then was sold to an Italian diplomat who took her back to managed to take her back to Italy, and was changing houses. She was at that point, she was the au pair for his child, and she had to stay at a nunnery. Well, the nun said, well, introduced her to Jesus Christ and said, why don't you stay here? At this time, she was still technically the Italian ambassador was using her as bought her as a slave. Well, so the nuns helped her, and she sued for her freedom in Italy, and the Italian Supreme Court said, well, we're Italians, we don't have slavery, so she's actually a free person. She could do every way she wants. And she, of course, then entered the monastery, lived a great life, was revered, and died around sometime after World War II, is an Italian saint, completely, as black as you can be. And she would say she was such a saint that she would go back when asked her about her captors and the people who enslaved her. She would kiss them because they, in their in the horrible, evil things that they did to her, they started her on this path to meet Jesus Christ. And there wasn't one American in that whole entire story I just told you. So one of the things that comes up in the lies of, you can go look her up, it's Saint Bactia. She's an Italian saint, a great life, amazing person. She's one of the people that we should make as our heroes, Saint Bactia. An amazing life, and that's the typical life story of the real slavery that was going on. So not only was the American slavery going on, not only the biggest slavery at the time, it wasn't even the worst. Now the reason why you don't have a huge African American community in Saudi Arabia and North Africa is because if you did survive that trans-Saharan, and this is all from there's some new research from Ghanaians and various African real scholars who have been looking into this. If you survive that, of course, do you know what they did to you? Why they don't have those big communities?
I actually know what they did, but I'll let you tell me.
They castrated you. So that's why there's not the same African American community up in Libya and Saudi Arabia and that whole swath of North Africa, which took most of the slaves from Sub-Saharan Africa. But
if I can interrupt you, one of the things from that movie Uncle Tom was pointed out was in the modern day, when we talk about the cities being modern day plantations, the welfare system has made it such that even back according to the movie, in slave times of the U.S. slave times, there was more, you would have a full family unit than if you do today under the welfare system. So getting back to you're talking about families, it's one of the other ways that it's worse.
Yes. So now, we're going on the theme again that the original sin of America is slavery, therefore America must be destroyed. Now, this is actually a total lie. Slavery has been endemic to human condition. The reason why it's not, to start back, there's, like I said, there's only one religion that's ever said slavery is evil. Even the sweet, wonderful Jewish people who had a large part of their history as slaves and know how wrong it is to keep slaves, still had slaves after that. And every society's had slaves. It was only the advent of Jesus Christ and the early church that began the long march to freedom for mankind. You can use I call it the freedom gospel, John 15:15, where he says to the apostles, I don't call you slaves because a slave doesn't know the mind of his master. I call you friends because I've told you everything the Father's told me to say you. That, of course, sparks the Quakers, the Friends, the Society of Friends, the Quakers, who then come to Pennsylvania, Penns Woods, where we live right now. And or that you can also, but from that to where he refused to let James or Andrew decide who's better. And one of the greatest works of art is the Da Vinci's Last Supper, where they're all sitting there equally, because Jesus really ended the idea that that the world is a pyramid with some king or pharaoh on top, and that all the rest of us are some slave underneath. He really made it this level equality, and equality began in the early church with there was no distinction between slave and highborn, and even I think Celestus I was the first, was a slave that was then became pope. So it really began it, and it's been a long march through the now Christians have been enslaving people. They've been creating serfs to get around it. They've been created a thing called indentured servant to get around that too. That is against Christian doctrine, and it has been against to the degree that I actually have the quotes from a bunch of popes, and depending on how you look at it, and there are at least, I have 7 or so popes that have specifically made encyclopedias or whatever they call they call it edicts, they call it encyclias, bulls. They have different names for it. 7 to 15 of these specific language when it reemerged slavery against with the age of discovery, when it reemerged, when the Portuguese first started going south to Africa, into the Caribbean Islands, and then around Africa, invading all those areas, and then to India, and when Columbus went across to the New World, of each popes, and I have their exact quotes so that we can put it all on the record that they do, that you do not hear anywhere. The various popes making it, you can't make it more clear than they said the Christian stance against slavery. So in 1435, the Portuguese had captured the Canary Islands off of Africa, and they were enslaving the people. And Eugenius the Fourth specifically came out, and here's his quote. Okay, they have deprived the natives of their property or turned it to their own use, and have subjected some of the inhabitants of said islands to perpetual slavery, sold them to other persons, and committed other various illicit and evil deeds against them. Therefore we extort, through the sprinkling of the blood of Jesus Christ, shed for their sins, one and all, temporal princes, lords, captains, armed men, barons, soldiers, nobles, communities, and all others of every kind among the Christian faithful, of whatever state, grade, or condition, that they themselves desist from the aforementioned deeds, cause those subjects to them to desist from them, and restrain them rigorously. And no less do we order and command all and each of the faithful of each sex, that within the space of 15 days of the publication of these letters in the place where they live, that they restore to the pristine liberty, and all each persons of either sex who were once residents of the said Canary Islands, who have been made subject to slavery. These people are to be totally and perpetually free, and are to be let go without the exaction of reception of any money. He said this, Pope Eugenius, in 1435, before Columbus sailed the ocean blue. All right, this proceeded from with various popes, and like I said, I have the numbers. When I went through it, depending on what you call it, I have 7 to 13 popes making 8 to 10 of these official decrees and various letters back and forth, including, of course, what's the penultimate one, which is called the Sublime God document from Paul III in 1537, which is a little bit after what?
We're at a minute and we're over an hour.
We're at the time. Oh, don't tell me I'm going to have to do History of the Slavery Part 3.
You can keep going if you want, but we're an hour and 3 minutes.
Well, I'll just let me sum it up with this, because Pope Paul III says this. So he adds this to it. Seeing this and envying it, the enemy of the human race, who always opposes all good men, so that the race may perish, has thought up a way unheard of before now, by which he might impede the saving word of God from being preached to the nations. He has stirred up some of his allies who, desiring to satisfy their own avarice, and are presuming to assert far and wide that the Indians of the West and the South, who have come to our notice in these times, be reduced to our service like brute animals, under the pretext that they are lacking the Catholic faith. Now he goes on to say, all he said, to make it clear, making disciples of all nations. This is what Jesus has said. All he said, without any exception, since all are capable of the discipline of the faith. You can't be more clear that the popes were on the right side of history, on the right side of God, on the right side of nations. Now, to that twit who's running for office today that says there's no vaccine for racism well, there is a vaccine for racism. It's called the Life of Jesus Christ, and it's dominant in its one country, the United States of America. So there is a vaccine, my brother, and I would just leave it there. I guess we'll come back with part 3 or whatever of the history of the slavery, because again, America isn't the problem. America is the solution. And I guess with that, are we going to to end the show?
Well, I just want to say a couple of things. Tuesday night, 7:30, 7:30, we do High Speed Politics. We'll be back next week, hopefully about the same time or earlier. But God bless and take care. Brother, you got any final words?
Yeah, we need a catchphrase. I'm thinking this. Assault forward.
Okay. God bless.
All right. All right.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
Aye, aye, Admiral Butthead.
So don't mess with me.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
I pray for the president all the time.
Ugh, back to the lock with you, Nessie.
I've now been in 57
He's
states.
what we designate as the crummy moronic
We
type.
didn't crawl out from under no rocks. We didn't have no tails. We didn't come from monkeys, you atheistic pinko meathead.
Donald Trump no longer has the capacity to break my heart.
I'm not pissed. You've seen me pissed. This is way, way beyond pissed.
Now it's a party! Don't try to be funny, will you, meathead?